All right, what's going on? What's going on? We're live. Let's get some tunes rolling here as we get set up and wait for people to sign on. Yeah. So what's the plan? So what's the plan? So what's the plan? So what's the plan? The plan is to expand. So what's the plan? Leave me a chat if you're on. The plan is to expand. So what's the plan? So what's the plan? The plan is to expand. So load up the van, let's take control across the land of my data. Our people divided through music united. That's why we take a stand, but first and formulator. So what's the plan? The plan is to expand. So load up the van, let's take. What is going on? Welcome to Ask a Realtor. This is episode 10. We are in the double digits now. Whoop whoop. And got some fun stuff to chat with you guys about tonight. What we have lined up to talk about is home inspections, all things home inspections. So if you're watching live, why don't you leave a chat in the box if you have a crazy home inspection story, whether it was your inspection or one that you heard about from someone, anything crazy or just strange that came up. Love to hear those stories and share those stories. So I've got some stories to share with you guys as well, from finding a little stash filled with old jars of pot on an inspection to a recent story of an indoor water feature that just randomly popped up during a home inspection that, spoiler alert, was not supposed to be an indoor water feature, but it happened. Let's dive in. First of all, thanks for checking out the YouTube channel. Please consider subscribing. It will notify you when we do go live here on the channel. We go live Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. every week, talking about various topics pertaining to buying real estate, selling real estate, what it's like to be a realtor, all things real estate. So if you're digging on the content, definitely encourage you to subscribe so it notifies you when we go live. If you miss a live, fear not, because all these Ask a Realtor live streams are recorded and they are on the channel for you to check out later at your convenience. Cool. Housekeeping items knocked out. Let's dive in. Let's talk home inspections. Awesome. So first of all, what is a home inspection? If you've never had one done, a home inspection is a visual inspection of everything that a home inspector can see in the house. And fun fact about home inspectors in Colorado, they're not required to be licensed. That's right. In Colorado, home inspectors do not carry a license. They don't have to be licensed to do home inspections here. So it's very important to make sure that you are working with someone with a good reputation, that has a good knowledge base. They know what to look for, and they know how to put things in perspective for you. For example, you see maybe a crack in the basement wall, and an untrained inspector might try to diagnose it, whereas a license or a proper inspector is going to say, you know what, to me that maybe doesn't look too major, but really I'm not a professional in that field of structural engineering or foundation repair. I recommend you have it checked out by those folks if you are concerned about it, based on the diameter of the crack, the direction it's traveling. In my experience, this sort of thing, it wouldn't worry me if I was buying the house, but it's not up to me. That's up to you, the buyer. So, if you are concerned, get it checked out by a professional is all we're going to say. That's exactly what we want to hear from an inspector. I've had plenty of inspections from clients that wanted to save a buck, and they hired their dad or their uncle to come in, and they came in. They crawled around in the crawl space, right? They got up into the attic. They looked at all this stuff, but it's not what they do for a living. They may have some construction background, and not knocking those guys at all. But all I'm saying is that uh, the home inspectors that I use, that I recommend to my clients, this is what they do. This is all they do, and they are good at what they do. So if you're buying a home and considering, hiring a home inspector, make sure you get someone awesome. If you need recommendations, let me know. I got you covered. Cool. Now let's flip the coin. Let's talk about what you can do to prepare for a home inspection on the sales side. I like to share this article off of a website called The Balance with my sellers when we're getting ready for a home inspection. And step one, clean the house. It sounds so simple, but homeowners often overlook this tactic. Home inspectors are people first and inspectors second. As people, they carry preconceived ideas about how well a home has been maintained. A clean home says that you care about the house. It's a good idea to make a good impression. Don't make the mistake of thinking inspectors can see past dirt and clutter, because you don't know who is doing that inspection. You're not the person hiring them, it is the buyer. So that piece is out of your control. What is in your control in that process as the seller is putting your best foot forward. And I'll take it a step further with having a clean home. Make sure that all of your light bulbs are good, that they're not burned out, because it's not the inspector's job to determine whether or not it's just a burned out bulb or if the light fixture itself is bad. All they're going to put in the report is that the light wasn't working at the time of inspection. They might tell their clients, they might say, hey, listen, it might just be a bad bulb, but I don't know that for sure. All I know is I flipped the switch and the light didn't turn on. So might want to look into that, because it could just be a bulb. That's the most likely scenario. It could also be a bad fixture. So remove that off of the table as the seller. Just change all those light bulbs. Put batteries in your smoke detectors, your carbon monoxide detectors. Make sure that you have those detectors within 15 feet of every bedroom in the property, because the inspector is going to write that up as well. That's a requirement. So easy things that you can do. They're not expensive. They're real cheap to go pick up at Home Depot. So go get you some smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, light bulbs. Make sure your property is clean, like you are for the original showings when you got that buyer to write you an offer. You want to make sure that you're leaving a good impression also for this inspection, right? Right. Awesome. And let me check in here and see how we are doing. Checking in on the chat box. No chats yet. It's a quiet night, but that's okay. No problem. That means that I know that you're digging on the content, loving it. So I'm just going to keep rocking and rolling then. But if you have questions and or cool inspection stories, leave them in the chat box, and we'll talk about it here live on the channel tonight. Beautiful. All right. Next, be on time. Kind of goes without saying, but we say it. Have the house ready for the inspection at 8:30 if an inspector makes an appointment for you for 9 a.m. Sometimes home inspectors are early. In my experience, home inspectors are often early, especially for their early appointments. Usually, if it's a later appointment, they've had appointments throughout the day, and maybe an inspection went long, and it kind of started to snowball for them, and they could end up being late to an inspection. It happens, but for the most part, they're showing up there early and starting on the exterior of the home before the scheduled time. At least the inspectors that I work with. So be prepared for that. It's also common for inspectors to start on the exterior of the home, so leave the shades down or drapes down until you're dressed. More than one unprepared seller has been surprised by a stranger stomping around in the backyard. or on the roof. You go, if you got a low portion of the roof that's right there by your bedroom window and you're not expecting someone's bright shining face there first thing in the morning, yeah, be ready for that on inspection day. So if you're running behind or whatever, or getting ready in the morning and you have an inspector coming soon, um, yeah, go ahead and pull those shades drawn. They can definitely open them back up as they come through to do their inspection of that window and that shade, right? So just don't want to be caught off guard or undressed or get in the process of getting dressed, right? So I definitely like to make sure my sellers are aware of that. Next, leave the utilities connected. Home inspector will turn on the stove, run the dishwasher, and test the furnace and the AC, weather permitting, of course. But leave the utilities on if the house is vacant as well. It's impossible to check receptacles for grounding and reverse polarity if the power is turned off. Without utilities, the inspector is going to have to come back. I've had it happen before where the utilities were off and we couldn't complete part of an inspection. And that can cause delays in that transaction that you don't want. So just be as prepared as possible there. Make sure that you got all utilities connected for that inspection. It's okay to have them turned off immediately after the inspection. That's no problem. But just make sure that they're on for that scheduled appointment. Some inspectors will charge the buyer re-inspection fee to make a return trip, and you don't want that, you know, on you as the seller either, especially if that buyer is, now pissed off at you for making them pay a re-inspection fee, and they're inspecting that home and deciding whether or not to buy it, whether or not to request repairs. So better to just be prepared, have those utilities on, so that you're minimizing any chance of that inspector having to come back, right? So let's keep rocking around here, going down the list. Leave space around the furnace and water heaters. Remove boxes, bookcases, furniture, and anything else that's blocking access to your furnace, AC, and water heater. The inspector is going to need probably 3 to 4 feet of working space to inspect these items. And inspectors generally won't move anything themselves. So if they can't get in there, then again, kind of the same situation. They can't complete their job. If they can't do their job, they may need to come back. They may need to charge a reinspection fee. That's going to piss off your buyer there. And you don't want to piss off buyer when you're trying to sell a house. So let's minimize that. Just make sure that there is access to the good stuff there, the HVAC systems, right? And enough clearing around it. And we understand that you're trying to move. You're going to have boxes in the space. Totally get that. Just have a path and a workspace clear for them. Keep the pilot lights ignited. Many home inspectors will also refuse to light pilot lights because they don't carry the insurance to be covered for that type of liability or risk. Important items such as the water heater, gas stove, furnace won't be inspected if your pilot lights aren't lit. And the buyer could delay closing until those inspections are completed. Again, could be a return trip there, could be a return trip fee. Just have it all taken care of up front. I'll also add in the fireplace. Make sure if there is a key for the gas fireplace that you have that accessible so they can utilize that if you haven't been using it, just so that they can inspect all items in one trip out there. Boom, 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 get it done, move along with the transaction. Awesome. Right on, right on. Appreciate you checking out the live channel here. Hey, Maurice, what is going on, my man? Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're getting some valuable information out here to share with your clients, man. Awesome. Yes. So, next thing I coach my sellers on when they're preparing for a home inspection is to provide access to the attic and garage. Kind of the same situation here, but again, convenience. We're making sure that the inspection can all be done during that scheduled time and they're inspecting every single item. Don't give them any reason that they need to come back. Um, Short of needing to pick up a radon test kit, which we'll get into, but that's separate. They're already going to have to come back for that anyways. So if they don't have to pick that up, it's ideal to just get it all knocked out the first time. So make sure that they can get into the attic. Um, and same thing, crawl space. If you have a crawl space and you have got like a trapdoor situation to get down into that, make sure that that's clear so that they can get through. Make sure when you open that crawl space or that attic, there's not boxes right there that's impeding them from looking around and inspecting what they need to. Just have that stuff cleared out of the way. I know that you got to live your life and you're going to have things in the space. Totally get that. All we're asking here is for a clear path. Inspector must get into your basement and attic as well, so keep a path cleared. Check for water in the basement. You probably want to nip that in the bud if you got standing water down there prior to the inspection, right? By the way, this doesn't remove your disclosure requirement. If you find that that's something that you're going to be required by your leasing contract to disclose to that buyer. Plus, you don't want them to find out about it afterwards. Even if you get that water cleared out, water leaves behind a kind of a film, but it has a shiny quality to it. And it's called effervescence. Inspectors are trained to look for that and see that. And if they see effervescence on boards or foundation walls or anything like that, it's going in the report. They're going to let the buyer know about it. And if it's something that you knew about and you did not disclose, then you could be liable for that. So don't take that liability. Obviously, take care of the moisture, get it out of there, but then just let the buyer know. I mean, 9 times out of 10, they're going to appreciate you being proactive and saying, look, went down into the basement there. We found some standing water. It looked like at one point that there was a leak that we have fixed, and we just never took care of the water. So the leak is fixed. Now the water has been removed out of the basement. Just want to give you a heads up that that took place. If you're disclosing like that for your buyer, you're just going to have a smoother transaction with less chance of being sued in the following weeks, months, or years after the closing, because it does happen. People come back and they'll come back after that seller, after the fact. You don't want that, obviously. So, just be on the up and up about it. And if you have an awesome realtor like myself, I'm going to coach you through it. So you should be all good. But yeah, check for that water in the basement. Move all boxes and stored items away from the walls by at least 2 feet. Vacuum up spider webs. Again, just making it presentable. That impression there. If it's a clean space, it leads to the impression, even with a trained home inspector, that you've been on top of your maintenance, even if that's not maybe necessarily the case. But if the space is clean, um, you know, they it's going to give that impression, right? So better that than the opposite way. If there's rodent droppings down there, they're going to see that. They're going to put it in the report. Um, Buyers might ask for you to have it pest control come out, right? So take care of that stuff before the inspection if you can. And of course, secure any valuables. If you've got valuables stored down there or anywhere else, again, uh, hopefully we're not working with any bad eggs out here, but there's always horror stories. So just keep honest people honest is my opinion there with the home inspection, right? How we doing? Let me check in. All right, doing awesome. I'm going to keep rolling through here then. We're focused on how to coach your sellers through, or if you are a seller, this is how I coach my sellers through preparing for a home inspection. Then I'm going to flip back to buyers and talk about best practices and tips for home inspection as a home buyer too. We want to make sure we cover all the bases here. And of course, if you've got stories or questions, share them in the chat, and we'll chat about it here. Beautiful. All right. Leave keys for outbuildings and electrical boxes. Leave the remote controls for your garage door opener or a key if the garage is unattached to the house. Unlock the covers for your sprinkler system and electrical box. Leave a key for exterior building access. You can label these keys and leave them on a kitchen table. Again, that if someone's buying the property, they're going to want to inspect all this stuff. And maybe you didn't have it open and available during the preliminary showings. Um, Maybe you did, and they took a look out there, but now they want their home inspector that they're paying to also check that stuff out and make sure there's no issues. So regardless, that's important. Make sure that they can get into every space on that property, including your outbuildings. You got padlocks. Make sure you have labeled keys for all that good stuff. Awesome. And then clear away brush from exterior inspection points. Nobody expects you to shovel a tunnel around your home if snowdrifts are blocking the foundation, but do provide a path around the house. Cut down dead tree branches and clear brush from the foundation in the summer months, and move trash cans away to provide easy access. Again, the inspection is visual only. The inspector can't see through walls. They can't see through obstacles that are blocking their vision of these important aspects of the home. They're looking at the siding, the foundation around it. So the more you can have that clear for them, it's just going to be better experience for the buyer as well as you, the seller, on that other end. Cool. So also provide repair documents. Make available all invoices and documents regarding remodeling projects or new items you've installed, such as a roof or furnace. Find the paperwork if you've upgraded the electrical system from underground to grounded, installed a new dishwasher, or even repaired a leaky faucet. It'll give the buyer peace of mind to know those items were re-inspected. Leave those items out on the counter. Make copies of them and leave the copies out, rather. Don't leave your originals out in case that the buyer picks them up. But you want that information there for them. Best case would be to also scan them in and email them over so they've got electronic copies of everything. Cool. Um, if you have a recent invoice of a repair done, yeah, they'll have the inspector look at it, but the chances of them asking for additional repairs on that same item are going to be less if you have had recent work done on it. All right. And then number 10, prepare to be away for at least 3 hours. Buyers will often accompany the home inspector, and buyers feel uncomfortable asking questions if the owner is present. Try to schedule a time for the inspection when you can be out of the house and take your children with you. Crate your pets if you can't remove them from the premises. Many inspections can take up to 3 hours to complete. Beautiful. Walk around your property to get a view of the areas the inspector will be looking closely at: wiring, plumbing, drainage, gutters, and foundation. You don't have to be an expert, and you're not trying to pinpoint problems before the inspector does. Just make sure the areas are easily accessible, clean, and well maintained. That's the best thing that you can do as a seller. I promise you, if you take these steps through there, it's just going to be a better home inspection experience for all parties: buyer, seller, home inspector. And they're going to appreciate that. Boom. Uh, Hope you enjoyed that piece of it. Let's flip the coin now and talk about as the buyer. Again, I think we kind of started out talking about the fact that in the state of Colorado, home inspectors are not licensed. So make sure that you're working with someone with solid reputation. I know several awesome rock star inspectors. Happy to share my recommendations with you at any point. These folks are amazing, and they deserve the work. So yeah, just let me know. You can always send me a message afterwards, and I got you. But you're preparing for a home inspection here on the buy side. So usually you want to get this done pretty quickly after your offer gets accepted. Um, I recommend probably within the first 24 hours because your inspection periods are typically going to be shorter. With a standard 30-day close, it's not uncommon to see the inspection deadlines to be about a week out from acceptance of contract. So, take into account that your inspectors are busy and already have inspections booked, um, maybe, plans with family, whatnot, and you want to get on their schedule right away. So just make sure that you're doing that and um, reach out to them sooner than later so that you can get on the schedule. And then the next step, have your agent reach out to that listing agent and or seller to verify that that's going to be a good time for them too. Because if it's not, if the seller is working from home that day and they can't get out of it, what have you, then we may need to wiggle things around. So the sooner we have those conversations, the sooner we can find a good time that works for everyone. Bam. So you're booking that. Um, Add-ons. A lot of inspectors have various add-ons to the home inspection. The general home inspection, they're going to, go through interior, exterior, look at kind of all that good stuff that we talked about. But there's going to be additional inspections that you can do. You can inspect for lead-based paint. You can inspect for asbestos in the home. You can do termite inspection, although that's a very rare thing here in Colorado. But in a state like Florida, for example, a termite inspection is a very standard part of the process. It's done on almost every transaction. So, those are things to consider depending on where you're at in the country as well, too, right? But then, in addition to that, you can have an inspection for radon that we mentioned earlier. That is caused by the breakdown of uranium in the soil. And radon is a gas that's a byproduct of that breakdown of uranium. Here in Colorado, we have a rather high um, content of uranium in our soil. Therefore, we can have higher levels of radon maybe than other places in the country. So, if that's of concern to you, um, you can ask your home inspector if they do radon tests. They they very well may have a kit, and it's an add-on for them to do that because they have to make that trip to come back a day or two after the inspection to pick up their test kit. They're dropping it off during the initial inspection. They're coming back in a day or two once that kit has collected the data, and then that way they can tell you what your radon levels look like there. If the levels are high, you have the opportunity to ask that seller to do what's called a radon mitigation. Um, I can do a whole separate video on that. There's basically passive and active systems. Active having a fan, passive just creating a path of least resistance for that radon gas to escape from the confined spaces in the home. Um, that's the whole goal with radon mitigation is to get that gas out of those confined spaces and out into the atmosphere where it's dispersed and becomes kind of negligible levels so that it's not going to be potentially harmful. Basements and crawl spaces are the best places to put those kits because that's where you tend to see the most buildup. Since it's coming up from the soil, it kind of makes sense that would be the confined space that radon gas would gather in at potentially harmful levels. So yeah, you can get it mitigated. A good system is not very expensive, maybe $2,000, less in some cases, and it's usually a glorified just PVC pipe going up from that confined space up above the house, releasing the gas. Again, active system. You have a fan on there that's pulling from that space and then also pushing out. So various options there. Not expensive. You can negotiate with the seller to put one in if the test levels come back high. Um, They could say yes or they could say no. It's all part of the negotiation process. But if you have to bite that bullet, good news is they're not that expensive, all things considered. Another test that I will typically recommend for my buyers is to do a sewer scope. Sewer scope, they are running a camera down your sewer line because remember, we can only inspect the things that we can see. So this is a unique opportunity that we have to check out that sewer line that's running underneath the home out to the street, to the point where it connects with the city line. Um, and what we're looking for is breaks in the line, crimps in the line, backups. We're looking for root intrusions, all sorts of fun stuff. And the camera will reveal that as it goes down the line. Um, Not that expensive to get it done, maybe 150 bucks. And the repairs that it can reveal that need to be done could be in the tens of thousands of dollars. So it's a very important one that I will typically recommend to my clients. I would say mainly the only time that we don't really do that is in a condo where the sewer lines are going to be owned by the condo association, or there's a short section of sewer line um, that is the homeowner's responsibility. And you know, usually at that point, and like, hey, do you want to pay to scope out, 6 feet of line? Um, Whereas if you're doing a single family home, maybe you have 75, 100 feet out to the edge of the property there where it becomes the city line. So it's like, okay, there's a lot that could happen in 100 feet. Um, Maybe the risk is a little less than that 6 feet in the condo. So on those, sometimes I leave it up to them if they want to pay for it or not. But um, let them know it's probably okay to skip since you have such a short amount of land that you're honestly checking here. And even then, they still might want to get it done and check the line that is no longer their responsibility. But it's still, yeah, as a backup is still not a fun thing to deal with. So they still might want to get that checked out. And if anything, they're notifying the condo association and saying, "Hey, look, it goes past my wall here, but we ran the scope, and there's a backup there that you're probably going to want to get fixed." So it'll affect you as the condo owner. So might as well get it done. So cool. Those are some of the various inspections that you can get done. Let's talk about some fun inspection things that I've seen. Uh, I've seen in a crawl space, we found a box that was filled with video games and mason jars filled with weed. So it was kind of random. It was a vacant home. Who knows how long it had been there? But it was right there as he opened the trap door to the crawl space, and pretty much had to move the box out of the way to even get in there. And inspectors, we talked about that. They don't like to move stuff, but if it's a small box, just move it aside. And that stuff is just kind of like laying out. It's not like we opened it and went through it, but it's like, oh, there's like 5 or 6 jars full of weed in here. Wonder if they know about this. And then, yeah, recent inspection that I had was a fun one. Vacant home. Also, utilities had been off for a little while, so we went ahead and contacted the listing agent, had them coordinate with the seller to have those turned on for the inspection. Um, Very cold day. Um, I think it was 0, if not -5. So anytime you have that, um, you run the risk of a pipe bursting. And I think you know where this is going now. So we turn on the water. The inspector knew what was up. This guy knows what he's doing. He's like, okay, I'm not just gonna like fling this water open and start turning stuff on and flushing toilets and running the dishwasher and running the washer. No, no, no. This is a vacant home, and it's 0, maybe -5, something like that outside. He's like, uh, we're gonna ease this water open here. So that's what he did. Eased it open, kind of let a faucet drip for a little bit. Everything was good for probably the first half hour of the inspection. Um, he's up on the roof. I'm in the house chatting with the buyers, and I think they had another contractor looking out at something else too. And all of a sudden, this water, we just hear this water gushing down in the basement. So we're like, we got to check that out. Go down there. There's a bathroom down there, and just water is just pouring down. I mean, I walked through the door frame in the bathroom. Actually, I didn't walk through. I walked up to it, and water is coming from the ceiling, and it's coming over to the door frame and just like pouring down right there. It's like we need to find that water shut off right now. Luckily, it was like right behind us, so we were able to crank that thing shut pretty quick and minimize damages to drywall and carpet, all this good stuff. So fortunately, it was we got it turned off pretty quick. I'm so thankful for two reasons. One, that in my experience, usually when something like this happens, it's after we've already closed, the buyers have already moved into the property, and then boom, a pipe burst or something stupid like that. And it's like, oh man, that sucks. Because it's their property, it's their problem now. And it's like, oh, welcome to your first journey in home ownership. But I always feel bad for them when that happens, and I at least offer them up my list of preferred contractors that, again, that I know, like, and trust, and that would do good work for them and not charge them an arm and a leg. But the fact that it happened before, during the inspection, so we were there, able to see it, you know, able to actually shut the water off and minimize damages. I I hate to think what would happen if let's say that we left the water on and we left after the inspection because there wasn't any, you know, cause to think about maybe turning it off, and then that happened and no one was there and maybe it sat for a week or whatever. Like, oh man, that would suck so much worse. So very grateful for those two reasons. One, you know, when we hadn't closed yet, so it was still the seller's home, still their property for them to make sure that that got addressed, which they did promptly. Did a beautiful job of getting it taken care of quickly, and that was amazing. So that was kind of a crazy inspection story that I had, and just wanted to share that with you fine folks out there on YouTube Live. But I'm going to wrap this video up right now. I appreciate you checking it out, whether it's live tonight or if you're checking out the recording afterwards. We're going to keep doing this every single week. So give me some questions that you would like me to address here on the channel, and I'll dive in and find out some cool stuff for you about it. Give me some stories that you want me to chat about on here as well, and we can. I love sharing other people's stories too, and offering my perspective on them, and hearing what they did, and we all learn from each other here. So that's kind of the whole goal. I appreciate you guys. Have a great night, and I'll see you on the next one.